So I'm going to carry on with the current project, which I think everybody was here last week, so I won't do the introduction again. So this is well, I started as a demo this morning, so I thought I might as well do a little bit more of this. This is the image I've chosen to use myself. Again, sort of looking towards the light source. So things like the trees are thrown into shadow, the figure thrown into shadow. This was the photo I took in Leon's about a month ago, sort of first thing in the morning, the sun coming up. That was the original photo. I then cropped it a little bit to get rid of the lamppost, which took me to that. And then after that, I decided I could probably crop a bit more, lose the top of the tree, lose that tree. So that's kind of the image reference I ended up with. So this is often what I do when I've got photos that I've taken, I'll change the shape of them a little bit. Sometimes I make them square or longer and thinner. Other times I'll just crop the sections out that interest me, just to get the strongest image I can do. Working on just on a bit of canvas, and most of you do work on white. I very rarely work on white. I like to work on a toned ground really. But because it's a sunrise or sunset, I've always found that it's quite hard to get that sense of the sort of nice glowing yellows. If I work on a darker colour, I end up having to add a lot of white, and then they get a little bit chalky looking. So for that reason, I want to try and keep these, particularly these yellow areas, quite fairly transparent, or at least have a little bit of the white blowing through. What it does mean though is that the rest of the picture, I need to get some other tones on there, just almost like as an undercoat. I don't like to work sort of directly onto white. So what I'm doing, I'm using the water mixable oils, which I've got loads of here, if anybody wants to try these. You could, if you wanted, if you're working with acrylics, acrylic would be fine to do the underpainting in acrylics if you prefer. Let that dry, and then you could do the oils over the top. But I find that if I keep the paint quite thin, and this was put on this morning, that bit's a little bit damp still. That bit's pretty much dry. I find that I can just put it on thinly, maybe blot it a little bit with some kitchen roll, then it will stay kind of thin enough to be able to put more paint over the top. So what I want to do is just add some more shadow here really. I started working, obviously you can see I've got some pale yellow here, kind of like lilac-y grey here, and I've just started some of the colours for the tree. I'll work a little bit more of that down. I'm not quite sure what to use. Something just really kind of a sort of warmish colour really. And the thing about these looking into the light type pictures is things often get silhouetted. So if I looked at that from the other side, that might appear to be a green tree, but there's no green at all from that point of view. So it'd be a bit pointless to try and put green in there. Instead, it's sort of browns and reds. As I say, I just want to kind of get a little bit of an underpainting and just plan out. It's like a way of just planning out where the whole picture's going to go. So, kind of branches here. The other thing talking about to the students this morning is that a lot of people are struggling with tiny little brushes, and I find that if I can get most of what I can get done with a bigger brush, and then work with the smaller brushes as I go along.
Can I do something, Paul?
Yep.
Your brush seems quite soft.
Sorry?
Your brush feels quite soft.
Yeah, it's a nylon brush. I think probably for acrylics or something like that. It's a synthetic brush, so it's not as soft as a watercolour brush, but I think it's quite a big brush. You can, just sort of sketch in things like the tree and stuff like that. So that's about as far as I can get with that bit. What I probably need to do next is just get some more of the landscaping. So just under here, there's a little bit more shadow. At this stage, it doesn't really matter too much how accurate the colours are. It's just getting a sense of lights and darks. So I'm mixing like a very purpley grey. The other thing is, where I can, I'm avoiding using white because white is a slow dryer. So, and really, this is a bit more akin to sort of watercolour washes, just get something down just as an underpainting. So we've got these sort of shadowy areas here. And any areas where it's going to be a bit too strong, I can just wipe that back with a bit of tissue. So just sketching in it's also really equivalent to the drawing side of it, really. It's just drawing with a brush. And then the road itself, I'll just go to a slightly smaller brush just to save. That is almost like a bluey grey. It's got a cooler feel to it. So that can go in here. And I'm just really painting it just to distinguish where that'll be. Just go a tiny bit darker there. And then this other side here, that can go darker again. Most of this, I just want to get some background colour. These railings, I probably would paint those in at some point, but I wouldn't bother with them at this point. The main thing is to just get some areas of light and dark in. And round here it does get quite dark, so I'll mix a slightly purpley, browny colour for there. Just got to work that in a little bit, maybe. It's a bit too dark, so a little bit more water, just thin that out a bit. And I think I'm going to end the painting about there. I'm going to keep to that format. I wasn't quite sure this morning when I started whether I wanted it a squarer painting, but in the end I've decided to go with just keeping what's there. So yeah, I can just kind of work that around there. The path will be there. I will just make a note of where the figure is, just so, because he's quite key as a focal point. I'll just very quickly sketch something approximating to the figure in there, just so that I can see where he'd need to be. And then there's a little bit more shadow there, there's a bit more shadow in there. And then basically just carry on just blocking colour in that area. A little bit warmer here perhaps. Could add some yellows into that. Let's try a little bit around there. Something a bit more like that. And I'm going to keep these shadows on the side of the steps here. So we've got the step there, that's where the shadow of the figure is going to be. A bit more shadow here. So basically, just want to try and wash out this white. And I can see going around, people's paintings, quite often you find you get like if you just go straight in with thicker paint, particularly on a surface like this that's quite textured, it's a piece of canvas, you get almost like these little pinholes of light coming through, and then you'd be trying to get big, thick bits of paint like that just to cover. And you have to put so much paint on just to get rid of that. It's much, much easier to just wash in something in the background first. You should then be able to carry on painting thicker paint into that. So even this bit that I've just painted, say the figure, I'll just do a little bit on there. I can paint thicker paint into that. Or what you can do is just blot it. If it's too wet, just get a little bit of kitchen roll, just take some of the moisture out, and then just give it a bit of texture. But that doesn't particularly matter. You can then sort of work into it. But I find that if you just pop it on, sort of spread the paint out, it will dry fairly quickly. That's pretty much how I work with oils. As I say, you could use acrylics. When I go outside, I tend to just use the oils because I don't want to take two sets of paints out with me. It's too much to carry. So it works quite nicely, just sort of filling the paint. Does that all make sense? Any questions? All good? Okay. Yep. If you need any images, I've got various images here. And I've still got the reference books I brought in last week.